off to Orlando, and he will score a touchdown.
Throw, under pressure. Throws. That's it.
He's going to scramble to the left a little bit, pass it into number 4, Tom Palmer, and he's going to score a touchdown for the McDowell Trojans.
It's more than getting there. It's more than getting there. Now you got to get the job done.
Let's go, fellas.
Right, baby.
AA Quad A Western Final between the Penn Hills Indians and the McDowell Trojans. The 1995 football season at McDowell was the best ever in school history. A record 12 victories and a trip to the Western Finals capped off a fantastic season. Join head coach Ron Ruther now as he takes you through the entire season from start to finish.
Yeah, the opener was with Franklin, who had been a pretty good ball club several years ago, and their program slipped a little bit, but I think the best thing was that we had 2 really good scrimmages with Mentor Lake Catholic and with Latrobe High School, and those scrimmages really helped us get ready for Franklin. And we went down there and everything really clicked well. Brad Orlando had a big game for us. Joe McGorian, Tommy Palmer caught some balls. I mean, everybody shared in the load. Laban Marsh had a great game, kick returning and interceptions and so on. And the score really got out of hand. It was tough to keep the score down. If I'm not mistaken, I think it was 54-0 at the half. And you don't get too many games like that. And then the reserve kids played a lot of the second quarter and all of the second half. So it really was a nice way to get the season started, but quite honestly, I don't think it tested us real well, and I'm not sure it helped us get ready for the second game, which was to be Ursulin. Going into Ursulin, we haven't beaten them yet since I've been the head coach. We've had some great games with them, and this game was probably the best game, and we probably had our best opportunity to beat them down there. As I recall in the game, they scored early, and then we fought back and had a great, we had like a 16-play drive and a 13-play drive, and on the 16-play drive, we had to settle for a field goal. Late in the second half, or the second quarter, we drove all the way to the 4 again and came away empty, and they scored late on a, I don't want to say a fluke play, but a nice drive and a 4th down play and so on. They deserved it. But I think the thing I remember about the Ursulin game the most was the locker room after the game. Rather than whining about the game or any tears about the game and pounding lockers and all the things you don't want to see kids respond the way you don't want them to respond, they were very mature about it, patting each other on the back. They knew they played fairly well, but they knew they didn't deserve to win the game. And I think that was one indication to me that this was going to be a special bunch of players, was how they reacted after the game.
You needed a chemistry, and it flowed. It started to flow through the season. When I started feeling real good was the Ursulin game, believe it or not. That was a loss. It was because we played so well against them. You know, we were in the game up to the very end. We could have won that game possibly.
Well, the Ursulin game, it was really a close game the whole way through, and we tried hard, but it fell short a little bit. And then after that after that game, we started working harder in practice, working longer. We started to come together as a team much better.
After Ursulin, I mean, it was a devastating loss and everything because we really wanted to beat them. But I mean, we just had told ourselves, we got to get back on track and don't let that keep us down. And we just wanted to have a winning season, and and we just, as soon as we started winning, we just kept on going.
In all my years at McDowell, in all my years of coaching, one of the toughest losses I've ever gone through was the year before at Hollidaysburg, when we were ahead by 2 touchdowns with about 4 minutes and some to go, and somehow managed to lose by a touchdown, 28-21, when I think we were ahead 21-7 or 21-8, I think it was, going into the last 5 minutes of the ball game approximately. So the kids remembered that. These guys had played in that ball game, And coming off a real tough loss, we needed to have a great week of practice, and I remember we did. Kids were really mentally sharp. It was our home opener. It was a great night, beautiful night out, big crowd, very good Hollidaysburg team with some Division I football players on it, and we scored in the first half to go up 7-0, and then we really played a whale of a second half. I think offensively the kids really came on. We had a nice attack throwing the ball with Brian and play action game. Brad Orlando had a big game. Joe McGorian had a great game. The guys up front really dominated the line of scrimmage. I think we rushed the ball for 200-some yards against these guys and threw the ball for another 100 plus. So the offense was moving, but the best thing about it was probably the defense. They really come of age. One hardship of the game was we lost L.J. Copeland with a broken foot, but the other guys stepped in and it gave another person an opportunity to play the rest of the season. But it was a real big win that I think set us on the right direction. It was the first win in that big long win streak.
I think the pivotal game in my mind would have been the Hollidaysburg game, to see how well we performed coming back off a tough loss down in Youngstown Ursulin, and whether the kids were going to be able to overcome that obstacle. And the performance that we gave at Hollidaysburg proved to me that these kids were ready to play, and that that one setback wasn't going to keep them down, and that they know that they didn't like what they felt down in Youngstown Ursulin. And we came out and we beat a pretty good Hollidaysburg team, beat them soundly.
Meadville is game 4, and Meadville perennially plays us really tough because of the rivalry, probably in all of our sports. And big, tough, strong kids. They got Division I player and Chance Bright, who signed it. We knew that he had signed at Penn State by the time we played him, and they came up to town really feeling pretty good about themselves because they had beaten Central. And it doesn't generally happen this way against them, but our kids just jumped all over them. We threw for, I think it was 4 touchdown passes the first half. Joey Messenger had a big interception for a touchdown. We ran the ball, we threw the ball, we played great defense. It was just an incredible all-around game, and the game, for all practical purposes, was over when the first half was over, and that generally doesn't happen. But some guys really performed well. I recall some runs that Joey McGorian had, and Orlando, and Tommy Palmer catching the ball, and Brian was on the money. And I think the biggest thing, though, was our defense. Guys like Eric Faulkner and McGorian and Nagel and Klein, Joey Mess and Chucky Bizarro, Laban. All those guys were really starting to mesh as a unit, and that was going to really be a strong point as we continued into the season here. DuBois was a real important game for us because now we're back on the road, and it's a Quad A opponent, somebody that we may see in the playoffs. We had played them the year before and done quite well against them, but we knew that they had a veteran outfit returning, and they had their eyes on the playoffs too. So going down on their own home turf, you know, it was going to be a pretty tough ball game for us. And initially, you know, it was kind of 2 heavyweights punching each other, and then you know, we got the upper hand on them a little bit, and we were much bigger than them up front. I remember their coach telling us and talking to us before and after the game that he thought that was a big difference, and it really was, because by the second half, we were just running at will on them. We didn't throw the ball a lot. We threw it effectively. I recall that defensively, though, I thought we played a great game, and they had a big-time quarterback and I think a second-team All-State wide receiver. And our kids just played an incredible game defensively. They had their share of yardage, but I think we had 4 interceptions and 3 or 4 sacks, and really had their offense on the ropes most of the night, and they were playing catch-up. The other thing I remember was Jeff Heil just really banged the ball, and I think that was his first trip down towards that area, and really made an impression on a lot of people in the area, as did our ball club. So real important ball game at DuBois, and a big win for us. Well, there's been a lot of chatter around town since Brad Orlando transferred to McDowell about the Vincent game, and I know it was really important to their players and the coaching staff, and I was really happy that our kids responded that this was going to be an important game for us, not just because it was a Metro game and always a great rivalry with Vincent, but they really responded to the fact that Brad now was wearing the blue and white, and he was playing his old teammates, and it was they kind of rallied around him. And Brad had an incredible game. He early scored on a pass play, had a couple big runs. Remember him stripping the ball away and stealing it, and you know, deservedly so. He got some big headlines in the paper the next day. But the best thing about it was really how the entire team played. Brian Caldwell and Joe McGorian offensively had a great game. The offensive line just opened up big holes. Jeff Warren and Frano and Joey Mess and Balco Klein and Eric Faulkner were really starting to come into their own, and we had a great balance and great defense. And when you can really play Vincent tough and shut down that wing T offense that Coach Buffalino runs, then you're doing a pretty good job of it. And as I recall, it was an exciting victory, and they proved that they're one of the better teams in all of Western PA too. When they took Sharon right to the very last play of the game in the playoffs, and Sharon went on to play in a state final. So, you know, we always like to use that as a measure of how our program's doing when we measured against Strong Vincent.
It was weird. It was a rush, but I've been with this team for a while, and we really got along together, and we're playing good, and it was just I don't know, it was great.
Well, Erie Central, the 2 years that they've put back-to-back are hard to top. They played in the Western Finals both years. Very easily could have beaten North Hills 2 years ago. Very easily could have beaten McKeesport. Outplayed them totally. So their program was at the peak, and actually, I mean, if you measure it with how far you get in the playoffs, they were ahead of us. They were ahead of Prep, and they were the team to beat. By the time they came to us in I think it was Game 7, you know, they'd suffered some tough losses. They'd lost a great tailback to an injury, and some real close losses on the field, and some other injuries and internal problems and so on, but they still had a great group of athletes. So they came out to McDowell knowing they could salvage their season and literally wreck ours. You know, as we sat there at I think 5-1 at the time. And our kids really responded to it. I mean, Central came out fired up. They had a few tricks up their sleeve of what they hadn't done before. Real hard pressure defense. And I remember one play in particular, Joe McGorian took a screen, you know, 50-some yards the entire distance, and it was just a great play. And that sort of got them off our backs a little bit. And Jeff Heil came through in the second half, early in the second half, with a big field goal. And our offensive line really started moving the ball, you know, getting off the ball, and we moved the ball well. But the defense was rock hard steady again. And even though we gave up a little yardage to Lamar Owens, who was moved to running back that day, and he had a very good game against us, we played very well. Very tough, physical, hard-nosed game, and it was just what we expected. And we were real pleased with a 17-0 win against those guys. For the first time in a lot of years, the Prep game meant the championship to us, and we could win it outright, win the Metro Championship outright with a victory over Prep. And we felt going in that we were playing pretty well. We had a good defensive year so far, and we were playing good offense and real productive, putting points on the board. Our kicking game had been very solid. Jeff Heil was real important to us. And as we went to that night for the ball game, it was just a torrential downpour the entire game, as most people remember. So a lot of the offense that both teams, I think, thought they had went out the window, and it was just the old slugfest in the mud. And I'd be the first to admit that they probably outplayed us a little bit between the 20s during the regular part of the game. They had a few more chances, but our defense dug in, made some big plays, knocked the ball loose, and quite honestly, we didn't threaten them much at all. during the regular part of the ball game, the first 4 quarters. And it was the first overtime game that we'd been involved in. We took it to overtime, and they score on a 4th and 3 play, and then we come back and we go to a 3rd and I think it was 3rd and 9, and probably the biggest play of McDowell football history in a long time, when Brian Caldwell hooks up with Brad Orlando in just a great football play. I'm sure that guys are going to remember that their whole lives, and a lot of people that were watching the game on TV if they didn't get to it. But it was an incredible football game, and that Jeff Hiles' big extra point kick in the mud and everything, and then it just seemed like we got an adrenaline rush off of that. We took the ball to the other end of the field, which we felt was our end, and scored in 2 plays, and then a little bit of luck was with us when they overthrew a receiver, and one receiver dropped one in the end zone, and then our kids batted one down on the 4th down play. So a great high school football game. Not a lot of points scored and everything, but if anybody watches that football game, they're going to remember it for a long time.
Beating Prep anytime is a thrill. Beating them twice is phenomenal. The overtime game was quite a thrill. I've been coaching a lot of years, and I can probably count on one hand as many times as we've beaten Prep.
The overtime game, I'll never forget Brad Orlando putting his hand up. I mean, that's you don't coach that. That's right here.
Oh, it was extremely exciting. Definitely was one of the best games I've ever been in, ever played in.
The first Prep game, because of the field conditions and with the rain, tremendous amounts of rain, and the mud, and how hard it was to score, especially in overtime, things like that. And because of the rivalry between us and Cathedral Prep, I think that was our biggest game.
The Altoona game was very important for 2 things. Number one, we wanted to cap our season off the right way, the regular season. We had made the playoffs, and we knew that we may have to face Altoona in the playoffs too if certain things went right for them in the district playoffs down there, District 6. And also we're setting the stage for us getting into the Allegheny Mountain League next year. These are going to be common opponents, and you know, a lot of us know Coach Dalton from Altoona, and we really respect what they've been doing and how they're building their program. So to go play them at Mansion Park, a beautiful facility, was a real thrill. As I recall, the game went sort of as planned, very hard fought. We were able to rush the football on them. Joe McGorian had a big night running the football, as did Tommy Palmer, and I think Brian Caldwell just had an incredible game in the first half, throwing the football, taking us down with like a 2-minute drill and scoring late in the first half. And we were really in command of the game, but they come back and scored early in the first half, and it really got us on our toes a little bit more. And then we came back and had a big drive and another big drive. And Joe McGorian, I remember, wrapped it up with a big interception. But great game down there. Our passing game and running game was complementing some real tough, hard-nosed defense that we were playing, and we were happy to get out of there with I think it was a 28-14 win out of Altoona. And it was something that we deserved.
It was a long bus ride down, and we knew that they were a really good team, and we came into the game, we weren't really as focused as we should have been, but we brought it back together and we beat them.
Going into the playoffs, we knew that once Prep was in the playoffs, that we would have to really play incredibly bad and have all the luck go against us to not see Prep again. And that's nothing against Warren. Warren was a AAA team that bumped up to Quad A to try to get in the playoffs, and they did. And we felt like they had some good athletes, but I think that we had a real solid season. So I'd be lying if I didn't say we expect to win that game. Did I expect it to be as easy as it was? No, not at all. Incredible first half of football, just totally dominating them in the kicking game, dominating them defensively. Brian throws for 4 touchdowns in the first half. We run the ball. They wanted to load up the line of scrimmage, and we chose to throw the ball when they did that, and it really started to take the brakes off our offense. People, even going back to that Central game that we talked about, when people crowded the line of scrimmage, we tried to make people pay with our passing game, and it's made us a pretty good high school football team, and it made us a good high school football team that particular season with that. But I remember all our kids in the second half playing. It was rainy, but they had a blast. And for all our underclassmen to play a lot in the playoffs was really important to us, and they did a great job of coming in and playing Warren very tough. Not too often do you get a chance to play your #1 rival 2 times in 1 year, but this was the second time that had happened. And the first time around a few years ago when Mark Miller and the guys played, I remember we lost a real tough football game to them in the District 10 finals down at the stadium in the snow. And so this time around, all the talk, I think all the talk in town and around was that Prep had pretty much dominated the game except the overtime in the rain, and they'd probably roll us. And I think our kids took offense to that, and they knew what kind of football team they were. They weren't overconfident, but we felt like the rain hurt us a lot worse than it hurt Prep. And I think the game down at the stadium really proved that you know, they made an early charge at us, and we knocked the ball loose twice. Big hits and caused fumbles. Chucky Bizarro and I think Eric Faulkner might have stripped one, or Laban, somebody else jumped and pounced on the fumbles, and all of a sudden that turned the game around. Probably the incredible thing that turned the game around was Jeff Heil when he was roughed, and it seemed like there was an adrenaline rush again for our guys, and we moved right down the field and scored to take 7-0 halftime lead, and then we threatened several other times. And finally, Brian Caldwell really showed how mature he had become when he checks off and throws about a 40-yard touchdown pass to Laban Marsh to take it to 14-0. Then we had the ball down inside the 5, I think 2 or 3 more times. So it was a great football game, great victory, our first District 10 championship ever, and big win over Cathedral Prep, who you know had a tough season, but we know how good they are year in and year out. So it was a real big victory for McDowell football.
Everybody's like, you know, if the conditions were better, Prep probably would have beat us the first time and everything. And you know, we just wanted to go out and just prove to everybody that we could beat Prep, and it was just a great feeling. I mean, you just can't, it's something you can't explain, to beat them twice in one season.
That was different. I never got a chance to play Prep in my 3-year career, and then beating them once was just unbelievable. And the second time, after them talking about it was a fluke and we beat them because of the wet field and this and that, it was unbelievable beating Prep twice.
Playing Prep twice is always tough. Playing them once is tough enough. I think that after we played them the first time in the slop and won in overtime, you know, you always get the public saying, well, on a different field and different conditions, and actually I relished playing them the second time on the turf, and this way there would have been no excuses or no doubts in your mind just how good, you know, how good we were, how good they were. You know, beating them in the District 10 championship on the turf was definitely satisfying, because then there was no excuse.
You know, I want to hear about Prep in a down year. I heard those things. I saw them play. They did and had a great season. Unfortunately, the competition, including us, was very good. And playing Prep twice is like a dream come true. And you know, if you're going to win a District 10, the way to win it is beating Prep twice. I wouldn't want to have it any other way. I'm glad we got the opportunity to play them twice, and I'm glad we beat them twice.
We had done a lot of scout on Shenley, and the thing that some people don't realize, even though that game went pretty smooth for us and we really didn't have any problems with it, you know, they generally have 1 or 2 Division I athletes, and this year is probably no different. They might have had 1, and next year they expect to have 2. I think it's just a difference in that the leagues that we play in, and just the time maybe that kids put in year-round to make yourself a good football player and thus make yourself a good football team. Our kids came right out and really rocked them. You know, you're playing at home, you're down at the stadium. I think we played our last 7 games in a row, something like that, on turf, or we played 7 out of 14 on turf. So Our kids really liked it. It was exciting to be in the state playoffs, and our kids played very well, both the defense and the offense. We ran the ball, we threw the ball, we played some great defense, we really rocked them hard. The kicking game was good. Jeff Howe was back, and although he was a little bit injured, he still managed to kick a couple extra points for us and so on. So as we moved deeper into the playoffs, it was really a very important victory for us over Shenley. Coming out of Shenley, and as you go into the playoffs, the big thing we're waiting for is where you're going to play, what are you going to do. And we were really happy that they took the game to Altoona. We played Hollidaysburg out at Altoona. It's like McDowell playing at the stadium for Hollidaysburg, but still we wanted to play at a great facility where we knew the weather wouldn't be a factor in the mud and so on. We also knew that Hollidaysburg was playing much better and were a better football team than we beat them 21-0 in Game 3. And it really showed. It was a real close, hard-fought football game. They had a couple wrinkles for us. As I recall, though, we were still able to run the football effectively. Brian threw the ball effectively. Probably the biggest thing was defense. So we made a little defensive adjustment in the locker room at the halftime. Coach Cashone and Coach Morrison and all the guys got together, made a little adjustment on what they were hurting us with, and I felt like the second half we owned it defensively. And then we got our offense clicking a little bit again, and it was a typical hard-fought playoff game, where they get their thing going and then we get our thing going, and in the end, really a great victory for us and taking us to uncharted waters, deeper into the state playoffs and into the Western Finals. And it was just exciting to be there.
They were in the game. We'd score and they'd come back and they'd score, but we had them deep. And again, a little character, Jeremy Klein, the house. He tips a pass. Brad or maybe Eric Faulkner, I can't remember now. I'm sorry, I can't remember who scored the touchdown. I think it was Eric. Maybe Eric Faulkner took it in for the score. That put him away. Again, it's just something we hadn't seen maybe in a year ago or maybe 2 or 3 years ago. The kids stepped up. They stepped up. And again, there was a chemistry, and there was no superstars in our team. That was nice too.
Penn Hills, the whole ball game, the whole day, it's what you dream about. You're in the Western Finals, one more game, you get to go to the state finals and play down at Mansion Park again, we knew. It just wasn't meant to be. We played against what all of our coaches feel was the finest high school team that we had ever seen, period. Not since we've been to McDowell, no matter where we had been. Incredibly talented team. 2 Division I linemen, both 300-plus kids, about 6'4". The number 1 linebacker in the country, and Ronnie Graham, a junior at 6'3½", 245, who just signed at Penn State last week. And then what one of the college guys told me, he said, those are the recruits. He said, but there's actually 5 Division I recruits that are all juniors, about 5 or 6. And one coach told me he thought there could be as many as 9 to 11 Division I players on that football team at once. So the thing that I remember the most about the football game, 2 things. Number 1, we didn't play very good offensively, and a lot of it was credited to them. Maybe it was some nerves on our part, but we got ourselves in a hole early, had a punt blocked and a turnover here or there, and it was just a tough go of it offensively against a very, very good defensive football team. But I think that if people really watch on film, like I have, how we played defensively against that guys, it was amazing. I went to the state final games and saw what they did to Lower Dolphin and just absolutely rolled them up and down the field and didn't have to punt ever, and it was just incredible. And our kids really stuck their nose in there hard and played hard the entire football game. And to me, that meant a lot, because getting down and knowing maybe you didn't have enough offense generated to win the football game, you're playing for pride. And our players really played like men. We tell them they're the men of McDowell, and that's exactly the way they played. And a lot of them did themselves proud. It was a tough loss, but I think it's one of those things that once a week or so got by us, we realized just what we had accomplished as a team, and an incredible season, and one that you can only dream about trying to repeat, you know, because the chances are you might not get there again, but you surely have to try. We had a great game down there at North Allegheny.
Well, it was a crushing loss. We felt that we could have had a little closer of a game if we just had some downfalls in that game. But the end of the game is just heartbreaking. It came so far.
After the Penn Hills game, I knew that we had been defeated by a better team than us. They were a great team. We played, with a lot of heart, changed our offense around a little bit more than we should have maybe, because we didn't get to move the ball as much. But I thought our defense played a pretty good game. I was disappointed, of course. Greatest season ever at McDowell, 12-2, and then going in losing to the number 5 team in the nation. That always hurts.
We've come so far, and just to lose like that right before state championship, it was a crushing loss.
We definitely felt we could win, but we knew it was a tough opponent. We prepared so hard, but that's the way it falls. But we had a great season, and there's nothing to be ashamed of in losing that game. They're a great team.
Well, going into the Penn Hills game, we were real confident. We've been playing real good football, and we thought we could play with anybody. We ran into a real tough team in Penn Hills. We played our hardest, and after the game, we were saddened to see the season go, but we were real satisfied in what we had done, and we felt we played our hardest.
Although suffering a crushing defeat in the Western Finals against Penn Hills, this team had nothing to be ashamed of, winning 12 of 14 games. Next, the players and coaches reflect on the 1995 season.
I came aboard and Coach Morrison already had the linemen coming off the ball like gangbusters, and I looked at the size of these kids and how agile they were, and I've been smiling ever since. I just was lucky. I just tried to stay out of the kids' way as much as I could and let them do their thing.
As friends of mine would ask, how good are we going to be in August? They were asking us this question, which is real early. I had no idea. We could see the potential was there, but had no idea how good these kids were really going to be.
Well, it was a fantastic season. The kids, I think they achieved what we as coaches expected they could achieve. To play 14 football games in itself is a phenomenal feat for high school athletes in football. To win 12 of those 14, to start practice in the beginning of the summer, and to continue in practice through early December is a major sacrifice for the young men that we had the opportunity to coach. And I think that says an awful lot about their character, their upbringing, and also what kind of athletes they are.
I think that at the beginning of this year, our expectations that we were going to be a pretty good ball club, and that we had the Metro League on our mind in District 10, and from there everything just kept building on the last success, and making it to the Western Finals is was very it's a pinnacle for us, and then it now built a foundation to not be satisfied with the Western Finals, to eventually make it to the state championship and be a state champion.
Sometimes you can have all the potential you want, but it just doesn't develop.